Here is part 1 written in simple, natural, human-centric storytelling. No headings are used, and the tone stays warm and engaging. A young girl waited quietly in the lobby of the music academy while her mother finished her cleaning shift. She sat on a small wooden bench near the big glass doors, holding her school bag close to her chest. Every evening was the same. Her mother worked long hours, and the girl had nowhere else to go, so she stayed there until the last room was swept and every floor shined. The hallways always felt too big for her. They were filled with posters of famous musicians, large trophies arranged in glass cabinets, and shiny instruments displayed like priceless art. She admired everything, but never touched anything. She walked softly and spoke even more softly, as if the whole building would break if she disturbed it. Most people passed by her without noticing. Students older than her rushed to their classes. Teachers spoke loudly about music, timing, and discipline. Sometimes she watched them from a distance, wondering what it felt like to be someone who belonged in a place like this. One evening, while her mother mopped the far side of the hallway, she sat listening to the faint sounds of practice rooms. Some students played perfectly, their notes sharp and bright. Others struggled, repeating the same parts again and again. She liked the soft mistakes most. They made everyone sound human. The academy felt calmer than usual that day. Many students had gone home early, and only a few teachers remained. Her mother told her to sit near the front, but the girl's curiosity tugged at her. She slowly stood up and walked toward the quieter area of the building, where the practice rooms were lined up one after another. She pushed her hand against one of the doors. It was open just a little. Inside the room was an old piano, scratched on the edges and missing a bit of polish, but still beautiful in its own way. She looked over her shoulder, checking if anyone had seen her. No one was around. Even her mother was down the long hallway. Her heart beat faster. She stepped inside. The piano felt like something she was not supposed to touch, yet something pulled her closer. She had seen many students play, but had never tried it herself. She knew certain keys made certain sounds. She remembered the way fingers moved softly, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. She placed her fingertips on the cool surface of the keys. They trembled a little. She wasn't sure what to press or how hard. She pressed one key gently. A soft note came out, warm and low. It surprised her. She pressed another, and then 2 more. The room filled with little sounds, unplanned but comforting. She lifted her hands from the keys and looked at the door again. Still no one. She sat on the bench properly, this time, and let her school bag rest on the ground. Her small feet barely touched the floor. This was not the first time she had listened to music here. She had spent so many evenings waiting, watching students through narrow windows, watching their hands glide like they were painting the air. She had memorized patterns, rhythms, the way a melody rises and falls. She didn't know the names of the notes, but she knew what felt right. She let her hands settle again on the piano. She pressed a few keys slowly, connecting them as best as she could. The sounds blended together in a way she recognized. It wasn't perfect, but she liked the way each small mistake made her try again. Soon she was playing a soft little tune she had heard a few weeks ago. It had stayed in her mind like a whisper she couldn't forget. The tune was gentle, something a student had played angrily while arguing with his teacher. She had memorized it without even meaning to. Now she tried to bring it back, shaping each sound with careful fingers. She leaned closer, letting her body follow the rhythm. The room felt warm, as if it welcomed her. For the first time that day, she forgot she was a visitor, someone who didn't belong. She forgot about the dusty corners her mother swept, the tired look in her mother's eyes, and the long walk home. In that moment, it was only her and the music. She didn't hear footsteps in the hallway. She didn't hear her mother calling her name softly from far away. She didn't notice the lights flicker slightly as the building's evening systems turned on. She was lost in the melody, playing it the only way she knew, by feeling, not by rules. After a few minutes, she paused. She looked at her hands as if they were not her own. She wondered if she was allowed to do this. She wondered if she should stop. But something inside her begged her to continue, just for a little longer. So she let her fingers fall back into place, and she played again. Her mother walked past the hallway and peeked inside. When she saw her daughter at the piano, her heart tugged with both worry and admiration. She wanted to scold her for touching something she shouldn't, but she also knew her daughter had something gentle and rare in her. She didn't interrupt. She simply watched for a moment. After a few more minutes, the girl finally noticed her mother standing near the door. She froze, lifting her fingers away quickly, as if she had broken something important. Her mother gave her a small, tired smile, one that held both love and the weight of responsibility. "Come, we need to finish and go home," her mother said softly. The girl nodded and grabbed her bag, feeling a little embarrassed. As they walked out of the practice room, the girl looked back at the piano. She wished she could stay a little longer. She wished she could play without worrying, without watching doors, without feeling out of place. But she knew she would return tomorrow. She knew the piano would still be there, waiting in the quiet room at the end of the hallway. She didn't know anyone else had heard her play. She didn't know anyone had noticed her small melody. She only knew she wanted to try again, even if it meant stealing just a few minutes when no one was watching. Little did she know that her curiosity, her courage to touch those keys, and that quiet room were about to open a path she never imagined. Something was already unfolding, something much bigger than she understood. The soft notes she played that evening had drifted farther than she thought, reaching ears she didn't even know were listening. And the next time she sat at that piano, her life would begin to change in ways she couldn't have dreamed. The hallway outside the practice rooms was almost empty when the girl returned the next day. She walked behind her mother quietly, listening to the soft squeak of the cleaning cart wheels. Her mother was already tired from a long shift, but she still smiled at her daughter before entering a room to start sweeping. The girl took her usual seat on the wooden bench, but her eyes kept drifting toward the place where the old piano waited. She tried to distract herself by looking at the posters on the wall, but the memory of yesterday's melody still danced in her mind. Her fingers twitched softly, as if they missed the keys. After a few minutes, her mother stepped out of the room she was cleaning and nodded toward the hallway. It was a quiet signal. The girl understood. She could walk around, but she needed to stay close and behave. She walked slowly, pretending she was only stretching her legs, but she knew exactly where she was going. When she reached the familiar practice room, she noticed the door was closed this time. She pushed gently, expecting it to be locked, but it opened quietly. The old piano was still there, sitting in the same place, waiting. She stepped inside and let the door close behind her. Her heart beat faster as she sat on the bench. The silence in the room felt warm, like it was happy she came back. She placed her hands on the piano again. She played the same soft tune she had practiced yesterday, letting each note guide her. She didn't know which keys she pressed. She just followed the sound inside her head. The melody grew clearer, fuller, as if something inside her had opened. What she didn't know was that someone else was in the hallway. Well-known artist had come to the academy that evening for a small meeting. He was tired and ready to leave when he heard something soft notes drifting through the air like a gentle whisper. The sound caught him off guard. It didn't sound like typical practice. It sounded like someone was playing from the heart, someone who didn't think anyone was listening. He followed the sound slowly, trying to figure out which room it came from. The closer he got, the more curious he became. The melody wasn't perfect, but something about it felt real and honest. When he reached the narrow hallway, he noticed a faint light shining under the door of one of the practice rooms. He stopped in front of it and listened. Each note carried a strange mix of innocence and emotion. He couldn't help but push the door open just a little. Through the small gap, he saw the girl, the cleaner's daughter, sitting at the piano, fully lost in her music. She didn't look like a student from the academy. She looked like someone who had discovered a secret place inside herself. The artist stood frozen. He expected to see a trained student or a teacher practicing late, not a young girl in simple clothes playing like she had lived with music her whole life. He stepped inside quietly, not wanting to scare her. But he wasn't the only one who heard the music. 2 staff members walking by noticed him standing inside and paused to peek. They were surprised to see him there, so they followed his gaze. When they noticed the girl playing, they exchanged confused looks. "Who is she?" One whispered, "I don't know." "But listen," the other replied. The melody carried down the hallway like a gentle call. A violinist heading to the exit stopped and turned around. A singer finishing her rehearsal also paused. One by one, they followed the sound. They didn't know who was playing. They only knew it was something worth hearing. Within minutes, several people gathered near the doorway. Some stood quietly, others whispered softly. But no one dared to interrupt. Inside the room, the girl played on, unaware that she had captured the attention of so many. She closed her eyes, allowing her hands to move with more confidence than before. She hit a wrong note, but she fixed it gently. She didn't panic. She simply kept going. The artist watching her felt something stir inside him. He had spent years teaching, performing, and listening to countless musicians. But there was something rare in the way she played. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't thinking about technique or rules. She was playing because it made her feel alive. One of the musicians whispered, "She plays like she's telling a story." Another nodded. "She has something natural, something she doesn't even know she has." The girl finally finished the tune with a soft last note. Her fingers lingered on the keys before she pulled them back slowly. She took a deep breath, the kind you take when you've stepped out of a dream. When she opened her eyes, she froze. There were people in the room, not one or two. A whole group. Her heart jumped. She quickly stood up from the bench. She didn't know what to say. She didn't even know how they got there. She held her hands together tightly, afraid she would be scolded for touching the piano. Her mother, who had been cleaning nearby, heard the voices and hurried inside. When she saw the crowd around her daughter, her face went pale. She apologized right away, her voice rushed and nervous. She tried to pull her daughter close. "I'm sorry," her mother said. She didn't mean to bother anyone. But the artist stepped forward gently. "She didn't bother anyone," he said. His voice was calm, warm, and honest. She was playing beautifully. The girl looked up at him with wide eyes. She didn't know how to respond. He knelt down a little so he didn't tower over her. "Who taught you to play?" he asked. She shook her head softly. "No one. I just listen." The artist's expression softened even more. "You have a gift," he said. "A very rare one." The musicians behind him nodded in agreement. Some smiled kindly at her. Others looked amazed. Her mother blinked in confusion, unsure how to react. The artist turned to the girl once again. "Would you play something else?" Her breath caught in her throat. She looked at her mother nervously. Her mother touched her shoulder gently, unsure but trusting. I don't know many songs," the girl whispered. "That's okay," the artist said. "Just play how you feel." She hesitated. Her hands trembled. The attention felt too heavy. But then she took a small step toward the piano. She sat down slowly. She took a deep breath, and she played. This time, her melody was even softer, slower, filled with emotion she didn't know she could express. It wasn't a known tune. It was something she made up on the spot, something she felt but never spoke. The room stayed completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. Her mother watched with tears in her eyes, seeing her daughter in a way she had never seen before, brave, honest, full of something she had always kept hidden. When the girl finished, the artist stepped closer. "You're special," he said, "and I think this is only the beginning." The girl didn't fully understand what he meant. She still felt nervous, still felt out of place. But something inside her warmed. Something inside her felt seen. Outside the room, the small crowd slowly began to talk softly about what they had witnessed. Some of them wished they had recorded the moment. Others wished they could hear more, but all of them agreed on one thing. Someone rare had just revealed herself, and none of them expected that a simple, quiet evening would be the moment. A hidden talent stepped into the world without even realizing it. The room felt smaller after the girl finished playing. She looked down at her hands, unsure if she should stand, sit, speak, or stay silent. Everyone around her seemed to be waiting, but she didn't know what they expected. She wished she could disappear into the piano itself. The artist who first walked in took a slow step toward her. He wasn't smiling out of politeness. He looked truly moved, almost as surprised as she was. People in the room watched him, knowing he didn't praise easily. He was known for being strict and honest, never giving false compliments. He spoke gently. "Do you understand what you just did?" The girl shook her head, her voice barely leaving her throat. I just played." "It wasn't just playing," he said. "You shared something from inside you. Something people spend years trying to learn." His words made her heart pound. Not with pride, more with confusion. She didn't understand why everyone acted like she had done something amazing. She only wanted to touch the keys, because the music in her head would not stay quiet. Her mother stepped closer, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. She looked worried, unsure if this attention was good or bad. She had spent her life trying to stay unnoticed, trying not to cause trouble in the places she worked. Now her daughter stood in the center of a room full of important people. "I'm sorry if she bothered anyone," her mother said again, her voice soft. The artist shook his head firmly. "She didn't bother anyone," he repeated. "She has a gift. You should be proud." Her mother looked down, holding back emotion she didn't want others to see. She wasn't used to compliments. She wasn't used to people noticing her daughter at all. Another musician stepped forward, an older woman with calm eyes. She had been teaching at the academy for years and had seen many students come and go. She studied the girl with quiet interest. "Play for us again," the woman said. "If you want to." The girl swallowed hard. Her hands felt stiff now. Everything felt heavy. She didn't want to disappoint anyone, but she also didn't want everyone staring at her. She looked at her mother, searching for a signal. Her mother nodded gently. "Only if you feel okay," she whispered. The girl took a slow breath and returned to the piano bench. This time she didn't close her eyes. She looked at the keys and pressed them carefully, as if they might break. She played another tune she remembered from hearing someone practice. It wasn't perfect, but it was soft and full of feeling. The older woman listened closely. She leaned forward, recognizing patterns only a trained ear could catch. There were mistakes, yes, but the mistakes didn't matter. The girl played with emotion, shaping each sound in a way that didn't look taught, it looked lived. When the tune ended, the older woman turned to the artist who had discovered her. "She has ear training without being trained," she said quietly. "This is rare." He nodded. "Very rare." The girl watched them whisper, unsure what they were talking about. She wondered if she had done something wrong or something right. She couldn't tell. A young man from the group finally broke the silence. "How old are you?" she told him. Her voice trembled a little. "Did you ever take lessons before?" he asked. She shook her head again. "No, I just listened to the rooms." "You learned all that by listening through the doors?" he asked. She nodded. A few people exchanged amazed glances. Some of them had spent years learning music, but they couldn't. Imagine learning the way she did by hearing fragments of melodies through walls while waiting for her mother. Her mother finally gathered the courage to speak. "Please." She didn't mean any harm. "I just let her walk around because she gets bored waiting." The artist stepped closer to her, lowering his voice. "You did nothing wrong. You should let her play." "She needs to." Her mother looked unsure. Life had never offered her kindness so easily. She didn't know what to believe. "She needs help," the older woman said gently. "Training, support, a chance to grow." The girl watched them all talk about her as if she wasn't there. She felt strange seen, but from a distance. She wasn't used to adults discussing her future. After a moment, the artist turned directly to the girl. "Would you like to learn properly? With real lessons?" She froze. The question felt too big. She wasn't sure what she was allowed to want. I don't know," she whispered. He smiled softly. "Then think about it." The crowd slowly began to leave, but many of them turned back one last time to look at her. Some smiled. Some nodded. A few stayed behind to speak quietly with the artist and the older woman. Her mother gently guided her out of the room and back into the hallway. She looked scared, unsure if they were in trouble or if something good had happened. "Are you okay?" her mother asked. The girl nodded, though she wasn't sure. Everything felt too big for her small world. As they gathered their things to go home, the artist stepped into the hallway again. He called out to them. "Wait," he said. They turned back slowly. "I want you to come tomorrow," he said. "Just for a few minutes. I want to hear you play again." Her mother hesitated. She wanted to protect her daughter. She didn't want her to get lost in dreams she couldn't reach. Life had taught her to expect little, so she wouldn't get hurt. "We don't belong here," her mother said softly. The artist shook his head. "Talent belongs wherever it is found. And your daughter belongs here more than many of the students who come through these doors." Her mother felt her throat tighten. She had never heard someone speak about her daughter this way. He continued, "Let her try. Just try. If she doesn't want to continue, then that's fine. But don't close the door before she even steps through it." The girl looked up at her mother, her eyes wide, waiting, hoping but afraid to show it. Her mother finally nodded. "We will come tomorrow," she said quietly. The girl didn't smile. She was too overwhelmed. But inside her chest, something warm flickered. They walked home slowly that night. Her mother held her hand tighter than usual. The girl kept hearing the words the artist had said. "You have a gift." No one had ever said something like that to her before. When they reached home, she lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. She remembered the soft lights in the practice room, the way the piano keys felt, and the faces watching her, not with annoyance, but with interest. For the first time in her life, she imagined a different future, not a big, loud future, just a small one where she could sit at a piano without fear, without sneaking, without looking over her shoulder. But the thought scared her too. What if she failed? What if everyone realized they were wrong about her? What if she wasn't special at all? Her mother sat on the edge of the bed and brushed her hair back gently. "You are brave today," she whispered. The girl didn't answer. She simply closed her eyes. Her mother stayed with her until she fell asleep. She watched her daughter's face, realizing she had seen something today she could never forget. something that changed how she saw her daughter forever. That night, both of them slept uncertainly, carrying the weight of new possibilities, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was clear: the simple act of playing. The piano had opened a door they never expected, and tomorrow they would walk through it. The next morning, the girl woke up with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had not slept well. Her mind kept replaying the previous day, the faces in the practice room, the artist's words, and the soft encouragement from the older teacher. She felt both frightened and curious about what might happen today. Her mother helped her get ready for school and reminded her to be careful. "Remember, just go and play if you want, but don't feel pressured," she said. Her voice was gentle, but there was a tightness in her chest. She still worried about what others might think, even though she had seen her daughter play like no one else ever could. As they walked to the music academy, the girl's hands twitched with anticipation. She held her bag close, but she kept looking at the old piano in her mind, imagining the keys under her fingers and the soft notes that had come to life yesterday. When they arrived, the hallway seemed quieter than usual. The cleaning staff were just starting their morning tasks, and a few early students passed by. The girl glanced around, half expecting the artist or any of the musicians from yesterday to be waiting, but the hallway was empty. Her heart sank a little. They made their way to the familiar practice room at the end of the hallway. This time, the door was slightly ajar. She peeked inside and saw the piano, just as it had been. Nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different. She felt a strange mixture of comfort and fear. The artist appeared quietly behind her. "Good morning," he said softly. "Are you ready?" The girl nodded, though she felt her throat tighten. She wasn't sure what ready really meant. She had no idea how many people might come to watch, or if anyone would notice her at all. "Don't worry about anyone else," the artist said. "Just play." Her mother smiled at her, squeezing her hand. "You can do it," she whispered, taking a deep breath. The girl stepped inside the room and sat at the piano bench. She let her fingers hover above the keys for a few moments, feeling the cool surface and recalling the melodies from her memory. She started to play slowly, letting the notes come naturally. The tune was soft at first, almost like a whisper. She closed her eyes and let herself feel the rhythm, shaping each note from the emotions she had carried with her through long evenings of listening. As she played, the hallway outside began to fill. Students, teachers, and even a few musicians who had heard about her the day before came to listen. They didn't rush in. They simply stopped at the doorway, giving her space to play. Some leaned against the walls quietly. Others stood with arms crossed, their expressions curious but respectful. The room filled with a gentle, almost sacred silence. Everyone listened without interrupting, as if they knew that this moment was special. Her hands moved with more confidence now. She made mistakes, hitting a few wrong keys, but she didn't panic. Instead, she corrected them gently, letting the music continue as if nothing had happened. The artist watched her closely, nodding quietly, impressed by her composure and the honesty of her playing. When she finished the tune, the room erupted in soft applause. Not loud, clapping applause, but quiet exclamations and whispers of admiration. The older teacher stepped forward. "You have an incredible gift," she said. "We would like to offer you a chance to study here formally." The girl's eyes widened. She shook her head slightly, unsure if she had understood correctly. "Study here?" she asked. "Yes," the teacher replied. "With lessons, guidance, and support. We will help you grow your talent." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. She had never imagined this day. She had dreamed of a better future for her daughter, but she had never expected something like this. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. The artist nodded. "Absolutely. She deserves this." The girl sat quietly, taking it all in. The thought of attending formal lessons, learning from real teachers, and practicing without fear was overwhelming. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but a small part of her, the part that had always longed to play freely, felt a spark of hope. Over the next few weeks, she began attending the Academy's youth program. At first, she felt out of place among the other students. Many of them had formal training and played with skill and precision. She struggled to keep up, but her teachers were patient. They recognized her natural ability and guided her gently. Her mother accompanied her during the first few lessons, standing quietly in the back, watching her daughter grow. The girl learned to read music, understand rhythms, and practice scales. Her fingers, which had once moved only by instinct, now learned structure and technique. The artist and other musicians who had discovered her continued to check in. Sometimes they would play alongside her. Sometimes they would offer small tips or encouragement. Each visit filled her with confidence and made her realize that her gift was being nurtured, not just noticed. Slowly, she started to feel like she belonged. She still remembered the lonely evenings waiting for her mother to finish cleaning, but now those memories felt different. They reminded her of where she came from, of the quiet determination that had kept her playing when no one was watching. Her confidence grew, and she began to perform for small groups within the academy. Each time, her nerves shook slightly, but the music flowed from her heart. She learned to embrace mistakes as part of learning, understanding that perfection was not the goal expression was. Her mother watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. She had always known her daughter was special, but now the world was starting to see it too. She could finally relax, knowing that her daughter's talent was being recognized and nurtured in the right way. The girl's story began to spread quietly among the students and staff. People talked about the cleaner's daughter, who had an extraordinary gift. Some were inspired, some were curious, but all agreed that what they had witnessed was rare. Through it all, the girl remained humble. She played because it brought her joy, not because she wanted fame. She worked hard, practiced daily, and listened to every piece of advice offered by her teachers and mentors. Slowly, she was transforming into a musician, not just by skill, but by heart. Her journey was only beginning, but already she had discovered a world she never imagined. A world where her talent could grow, where she could be seen for who she truly was, and where every note she played brought her closer to a dream she had never dared to speak aloud. And so, day by day, practice by practice, the girl who had once sat quietly in the hallway, waiting for her mother to finish cleaning, was becoming someone the Music Academy would remember for years to come. She was learning that talent, when nurtured with care and courage, could turn even the quietest beginnings into a bright, unforgettable story. Months passed, and the girl had grown more confident with each practice. She had learned to read music properly, follow rhythms, and play more complicated pieces. Every note she touched carried the emotion she had always felt. But now her fingers knew the language of music as well as her heart did. Her mother watched quietly from the back of the practice room during lessons, sometimes wiping a tear away. She could hardly believe how far her daughter had come. The little girl who had once sat in the hallway, unsure and hesitant, was now playing with intention, passion, and skill. One day, the Academy organized a small concert for local artists and students. The girl was nervous. She had performed for teachers in small groups before, but this was different. The room would be filled with notable artists she had only admired from afar. Her heart raced as her mother held her hand on the way to the venue. "Just play as you feel," her mother whispered. "No one can take that away from you." The girl nodded, trying to breathe deeply. She had practiced for weeks, but the anxiety in her chest refused to leave. As she walked onto the stage, the bright lights made her squint. She could hear the murmurs of the audience, but she tried to focus on the piano in front of her. She sat down, placed her hands on the keys, and closed her eyes. In that moment, she remembered all the quiet evenings in the empty practice room, all the soft melodies she had learned by listening through doors, and the encouragement of the artists and teachers who had believed in her. Her fingers began to move. The first notes were soft and delicate, filling the room like a whisper. She felt the music flowing through her, not from any sheet, but from inside herself. Each note carried her story, her past, her fears, and her hope. The audience sat silently, captivated by the raw emotion of her playing. As she continued, her confidence grew. The mistakes that would have once made her stop no longer mattered. She embraced them as part of the music, shaping the melody with her heart. The room seemed to disappear. There was only her, the piano, and the music. When she finished the piece, the audience was silent for a moment, absorbing the beauty of what they had just heard. Then the applause erupted. Not just polite clapping, but genuine admiration and awe. Several artists who had first discovered her the day she played in the empty practice room stood to applaud, their smiles wide and proud. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears as she watched her daughter bow to the audience. She could hardly believe how far she had come. All those quiet, unnoticed moments had led to this: a stage, lights, and an audience that could finally see the talent she had always known existed. After the concert, many people came to congratulate her. Some wanted to hear her play again. Others offered advice or asked how she had learned so quickly. She smiled shyly, thanking everyone, but inside she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that her journey was just beginning, but she had already achieved something incredible. The artist who had first heard her play approached her, his eyes filled with pride. "You've come so far," he said softly, "and this is only the beginning. You have a gift, and now the world can see it too." The girl looked up at him, her cheeks flushed. I just wanted to play," she whispered. "And that's what makes it real," he replied. "You play because it comes from you, not because anyone told you to. That is the true heart of music." Her mother hugged her tightly. "I am so proud of you," she said, her voice trembling. "You worked so hard, and now everyone can see how special you are." The girl hugged her back, feeling a warmth she had never known before. She understood that her talent was not just about the piano, it was about courage, persistence, and the support of those who believed in her. In the following months, she continued to practice and perform, slowly gaining recognition. She participated in competitions, recitals, and small concerts. Her name began to be known in the local music community. But she never forgot where she came from: the quiet hallways, the empty practice room, and the evenings spent watching and listening. Her mother continued to accompany her, always proud, always supportive. They shared quiet moments after practice, talking about the music, the people she met, and the dreams she was beginning to imagine. One evening, after a long day of lessons, the girl and her mother returned home. She sat at the small keyboard in their living room, improvising a new melody. Her fingers danced over the keys, expressing feelings she couldn't put into words. Her mother watched silently, a smile on her face, knowing that the music was not just a talent, but a language the girl had found to tell her story. The girl had changed, but she had not forgotten the beginning. She knew the journey had started in a quiet hallway, with a piano she wasn't supposed to touch, and a melody that no one else had noticed. That moment had opened a door to a world she had never imagined, a world filled with possibility, music, and hope. She realized that life, like music, was full of unexpected turns. Sometimes the smallest, quietest actions could lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. And she understood that her music would always carry her story. From the lonely hallways to the bright stages, a reminder that dreams can start anywhere. even in the softest, simplest of places. And so, with every note she played, she embraced her journey, her past, her present, and the bright future that lay ahead. She had discovered herself through music, and in doing so, she had found a place in the world where her heart could speak freely, a place where her gift was celebrated, and a life that had been forever changed by the courage to play.